I think the most unhinged experience I ever had with my wife was when she was released from jail. She had 4 DUIs, and this was her third and fourth DUI. So they put her in jail for 6 months, I believe, and then she's supposed to have 6 months of house arrest. Well, she was only incarcerated for 65 days, and when she got out, she was very upset because I'd only been able to visit her 2 or 3 times in that period. It was our open enrollment. It was our busiest time of the year. I was working 7 days a week. And she never took that into consideration, which was really part of the narcissism on her part. But unfortunately, the day she got out, she disappeared. Again, I've made stories on this. We found her in front of a grocery store. She was passed out. She had a couple bottles of wine after being in jail for DUI for over 2 months. I took her home, and then she stole the car a second time that day, and then we didn't see her for 2 days until I got a call from the police that they had found her in a park, passed out, and they had taken her to the emergency room in Temecula. And I went down there, and what reminded me of this, because the other day we were talking about doctors and nurses and how they treat alcoholics that go to ER, or the staff in the hospitals, and how they are very judgmental towards the people in there. And this is one time where I actually felt it myself, that they were really kind of very judgmental to me until I was able to tell my story and then eventually bring my son into the conversation. But let's continue the conversation as I unfold this pretty harrowing story. So once I got a call from the police, really out of the blue, and that was pretty upsetting anyways, because they said, we found your wife passed out in a park, and we brought her to the ER, and that's where she is. This is a courtesy call. And really, they just left the message on my phone because I was working. I just kind of went like, oh my God. And the thing is, I kind of knew where she was because she would go to this particular cheap hotel near Old Town. It was a pretty safe area, but I knew she needed some space to herself, and I was giving it to her. I wasn't really too concerned where she was, unfortunately. But then I went to the hospital, and they were just kind of looking at me like, what's going on, because I remember walking into the ER, and she was in a bed. They had given her a bed. They had a 72-hour psych hold on her because she just wasn't making any sense. When I walked up to her, she looked like a homeless person. Her hair was all matted. She was dirty. She had vomit down the front of her. They hadn't even had a chance to clean her up. She had hit her head. She had blood all over the side of her. She looked like a homeless person, and it was very disturbing. And she just was not making any sense at all. She's talking about how the horse had saved her, and she's talking about horse therapy, obviously in rehab, but she just was not making sense. And she was still under the influence of alcohol, but it just seemed like there was something deeper going on with her because she was just completely belligerent in a way that I'd never seen before. And because of that, the staff were looking at me like maybe I was abusing her or something because of her reaction when I walked in. And I was just kind of like, look, guys, she just got out of jail from 65 days because she's had 4 DUIs. And they're kind of looking at like, okay, well, why is she like this now, though? And I go, well, you know what, let me go get back my son and come back, and we'll talk about this a little bit more. So that's really what I ended up doing. I ended up going back home because I really couldn't do anything with my wife. She was making absolutely no sense, and I figured maybe an hour or two might, bring her clarity back. I went back, got my son. He was probably 16 at the time. This is probably 4 years before my wife passed away, 3 years. So he would have been 16. And we brought him there, and everybody was like, oh, okay, you have a son. I go, yeah. And he goes, yeah, she just got out. And then my son was explaining it to the nurses and to the doctor on staff as we all circled around her bed. And my son goes, yeah, she's been in jail for 65 days because she's got all these DUIs. She stole my dad's car, and she's disappeared for 3 days. We didn't know where she was. We had a good idea where she was, and then the police found her in a park. My son was explaining it to the doctors and the nurses, and they kind of went, oh, okay, we get it now. Okay, and they literally thought that I was abusing her. That was just their assumption. And it was really unnerving on my part. And it was a feeling that I really did not appreciate at the time at all, to say the least. And I did voice that. I go, look, I need to bring my son down to prove this to you. Look, this woman is in a crisis situation. How long can we hold her for? And they agreed to hold her for 7 days. And they actually gave her an inpatient in the hospital, and they held her for that amount of time, which I think helped her and was able to come back. But it took the corroboration of my son to tell his story for them to believe me. And I know families go through this. People don't believe what they have to go through. And they don't have a lot of empathy. They just, people are just so ready to judge when they don't have a full understanding of the picture or what families are going through. And this is why I do what I do so much on this page, is to create awareness and for families to understand, and for people and the world to understand what families and the atrocities that families have to go through. On that note, again, I have a complete coaching program. It's called There's an Alcoholic in the Family. Link is in the bio. It takes about 45 minutes to an hour. We do a deep dive Zoom call to go, find out what's going on with you and your family. I'm looking for people who want to change their lives and the lives of their family. The call is free. The coaching program definitely is not, but we have different programs to fit anybody's budget. Very important. I'm looking for people who want to stop living the way they're living, to make it easy. And again, thanks so much for